So let's have a look at some of the custom built models that comes as part of a standard installation of OCI Vision. So these are kind of pre-built ones that Oracle has given us and allows us to be able to kind of try it out and be able to see some of the capabilities. So if we go to the Vision service, it should open up pretty quickly, and what we get here is kind of a basic screen which kind of gives us some information and links to the documentation and some of the capabilities of what it can do. So what we're going to be looking at is going to be two bits, which is going to be image classification and object detection. So with image classification, we click on this, and what we get is a little dashboard of, here's an example of how we can actually use it. And it comes with kind of two images already built into it. And it tells us some information about these images. So when we click on each image, it tells us some of the things that are there. We can click in and have a look at, say, what is the model that's actually being called. So we can actually reuse this within our code, and we have an example of that in a later video. But then we also get to see is what are the different things that it has identified or classified for against this image. So this is an example of image classification, so we can see what's in there. But what we can also do is we can load our own images into it to see, how well does it actually perform on certain things. So in this particular example, this is a shopping street in Dublin. We get to see some of the typical streetscape classifications on that. Ring and Eiffel Tower, we get to see, it's water, vegetation, there's a roof, sky, and so on. And then we have something here where we have a couple of children and a teddy bear. So it helps to identify, different aspects or things that might be in that image. Now with object detection, this is where we want to have a closer look at the image and being able to almost say in the image, what parts of the image contain the different objects. So here we get to see the bounding boxes. So the boxes surround the objects that it is identified. So from a bus to a car, a taxi, so it's another car, and we've identified different aspects of that. Where in this image, we get to see, well, we have a human face, we have a safety helmet, and we have a person there. And just like with the classification, we get, the objects coming back, but we also get the X and Y coordinates for the bounding boxes. So looking at our previous images that we use for classification, we can pull these in, but we get to see different things because these models are built differently. All right. So although the kid on the left has been only identified as clothing, so where in this particular case we get to see, hey, we get a tower, but under classification we got to see there was other things being identified as being part of that image. We bring in the shopping street in Dublin. The only thing we get in this particular case is identified people within that, not necessarily the buildings or the sky or other kind of things. Or if you take the Beatles walking across the road, it identifies quite a lot in this, from, shoes, we get identifying people within there, whether it's a man or maybe it has identified one of the Beatles as being a woman, so maybe because of the long hair. But it also helps us identify, cars, trees, buildings, and there's also, some of the items of clothing that are there that they're wearing, so like jeans and so on. So if we had really powerful models of these, we could identify individual clothing on it. But for certain images, it doesn't actually find anything because those models haven't been trained on these particular items.